There's been one poll after another poll after another poll this week that has shown that the Republicans are just absolutely bashing Democrats when it comes to issues. In fact, Gallup had a poll a few days ago where they reported the largest gap between Republicans and Democrats since they started taking these polls. And despite the fact Republicans have a massive lead, we always go like, well, how could people still go along and Republicans to go along with Donald Trump? Well, I mean, a lot of them aren't, despite the fact that Democrats are minus 20, minus 25, even minus 30 on like polls on who do you trust more to take care of the economy. Both parties are not liked or trusted by 56, 57, 58% of the population. And Joe Biden, in the latest poll that's out, among likely voters, beating Donald Trump by 3 points. It's amazing the advantage Republicans have, or 2 points, that Republicans have going in to this election on the issues. And
yes,
yet Donald Trump keeps dragging them down.
Yeah, no, they're saddled with this Trump issue. And if they had any other candidate there, I think there'd be real alarm among Democrats and the White House about what these polls are showing. We just ticked through one here, that Marquette University poll we just showed there. Yes, the top line shows Trump and Biden. Biden up slightly, but within the margin of error. It's a close race. We know that. But look at this. Republicans over Democrats on issues like inflation, the economy, immigration. These are 25, nearly 30-point margins creating jobs.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Huge numbers. Now, the other way, Democrats, as you might expect, more trusted more on climate change, abortion policy, healthcare, Medicare, and the like. But elections so often, Joe, as you well know, are decided on the economy. And these are big warning signs here. And certainly there has been some other surveys in swing state voters, particularly among suburban voters, who dislike Trump immensely, but still really disapprove of how this White House has handled the economy. And the White House thinks that can change. Yep. They point to some underlying metrics. They say things are getting better. They think that narrative will change come next year. But this is something deeply.
Come on. Do we really think? Do we think that narrative's going to change?
I'm saying
I don't think that narrative's going to change.
I'm not sure.
I don't think so
the
either.
economists, Willie, are still saying that, hey, we may still be headed for a hard landing. The economists are still saying interest rates may continue to go up right now. I mean, the White House, I think they're starting to realize they made a really bad mistake with this Bidenomics rollout, and reportedly Joe Biden was against that. And they went ahead with it anyway. It's not working. You can't convince people the economy's going great when they don't feel like the economy's going great, even though our economy is going a hell of a lot better than any other country's.
Yeah, and the idea that it's just narrative doesn't work for voters either. Why aren't you listening to our story that we're telling you that things are going well? Well, because maybe in my life I think things cost too much is usually the answer you hear. And, John, that was the concern when they went with the Bidenomics argument, which was, okay, yeah, there are a lot of good things to talk about in this economy, but when you call it Bidenomics, you now own everything about the economy, and that's what Republicans are using.
Right, and that rebrand hasn't worked at all to this point. And numbers can be what the numbers are, but perception is different, and voters are going to probably cast their ballots based on the perception. And immigration, another issue there that I know Joe hammers on a lot here as being a real problem for Democrats, and we're seeing that poll reflects it. And now we're seeing a Biden administration doing a about face on a couple of issues about deportation of Venezuelan migrants. There's also construction of Donald Trump's border wall. Now, some of that's because they have to because of a funding issue, but it is a nod that that's a vulnerability too. And if the Republicans had anyone other than Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, there could be real worries. But even with Trump, this is going to be very close, and there are warning signs for the White House.
Listen, all the internal polls that I've seen in the swing states are just really tight. Whether you're looking at Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or Michigan, the internal polls show these candidates close. Not so close in Georgia. Trump actually, from the internal polls I've seen, Trump is moving ahead in Georgia right now. So a long way to go. We're just talking, though, about the problems right now that all sides are facing. That said, because it's such a long time to go, I'm the one that say here, you can talk a year out about who you're going to vote for, who you're not going to vote for. I'm against the incumbent. But when you get to that voting booth, things change. And I still think when people get in the voting booth, it's going to be hard for them to check off Donald Trump, a guy who says he wants, he wants the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, executed. Guy that says he wants to ban TV stations that he doesn't like. A guy that says the most horrific things, jokes about 82-year-old people getting their heads bashed in. But Sam Stein, one underlying issue that, again, even a week out from the 2022 races, nobody was talking about because it was showing up at 3, 4, 5% of the polls. Taking women's right to choose away. It proved to be a firestorm. And on Election Day, 35% of voters said that abortion was a huge issue. Things haven't gotten better since then. Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida has enacted a 6-week ban since the 2022 midterms. He won that huge landslide.
And then did that.
And then passed a 6-week ban that has some of the biggest supporters of Republicans financially saying, that's way too radical. We can't go along with that. There's so many cross currents right now. You'd usually say it's the economy, stupid. But because of Donald Trump and because of some really extreme policies, like in Michigan, swing state, an 1849 ban, because of abortion ban. I mean, it's leveling the playing field for Democrats when Democrats should be down 10 points.
Yeah, and you know who thinks that this could be kryptonite for Republicans is Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is out there publicly saying that this is a bad issue for Republicans, that they should not be embracing 6-week bans. He's reluctantly said he would embrace harsh abortion legislation himself and touted the fact that he's responsible for the 3 Supreme Court justices that ended Roe. But he's also been very upfront about what he thinks are the political costs of it, and he's moved away from it. And so, yeah, that's a factor, obviously, and will be in 2024. And look, I mean, we're so far out, right? We're, 14 months? It's hard to just divine what's going to happen based on polls. What we have seen, which has given some Democratic optimism, is these special election results that have often seen Democrats outperform historical margins and expectations. Now, will that portend anything for 2024? Who knows? Again, we're so far out. The economy could take another twist or turn. Again, I completely agree with Jonathan and Willie, like the Bidenomics rebrand. Really bad to potentially fatal. You don't want to be owning an economy where people don't think that it's going well for them. Also, it centers the economy on Biden and not on the people, which a lot of Democrats have been worried about. But we have just so much time and so many different concurrent issues that I think we just need to take a bit of a breath,
Yeah, oh, no doubt about it. We've got a lot of time, and I'm so glad you brought up those special elections. You look at a state like Florida. Ron DeSantis won in a landslide. Republicans won in a landslide. They won because Democrats just didn't fight. Democrats weren't in the state of Florida. It wasn't competitive. So what happened when Democrats pulled up all of their stakes, left, didn't fund the 2022 race? In 2023, there's a special election, and what happens for the first time in a long time? A Democrat wins in Jacksonville. So anything can happen, but Sam's right. We got a long way to go. But look at these special elections like the Jacksonville mayor's race. And you see, again, that though Republicans are ahead on issues, they still are being dragged down by Donald Trump and abortion bans.
All right, everybody.